Ahoy there, chummers. Welcome to a stepping stone between Sessions 8 and 9 of my ongoing Shadowrun 4th Edition campaign. I think it's fair to consider the first 8 sessions of Shadowrun as the first season. The group meets for the first time. They unify over a job against Ares, effectively, at the soy calf factory. And the several sessions after that detail them surviving and working through complications resulting from that and gelling together. You also have the departure of Beck and the introduction of Boris into the group. The tone of the game definitely changes between Session 8 and Session 9. And to properly prepare you viewers for Session 9, it's important to discuss, at least as far as my character is concerned, what changes in his life. So, I have a downtime document prepared. If you'd like to read this at your own leisure without my judgments or input, it'll be linked in the video description, of course. You can also pause the video to read it. But I do have a number of images that are linked as well, that it would be easier for you to just go to the document and click on those hyperlinks than type them out from what you see on the video. As an aside, this is not the first time I've tried to record this. I was almost entirely finished with my first attempt and realized that I had my microphone set to push to talk from the last stream I did that had air conditioner backup. So yeah, I'd done that just before the storm outside started to rage, so if you hear any rain in the background or noise against the microphone, whatever. It made more sense in my head. Let's get started. So Dream has made so much money over the past 4 months. We all have. Boris, less so, because he just joined us, but so much new yen. Middle lifestyles aren't prepared for that new yen. High lifestyles aren't prepared for that new yen. Luxury lifestyles, to some extent, aren't prepared for how much he's made over 4 months. That's enough money to permanently buy a middle lifestyle through investments, and that's 77.7% of the way towards buying a high lifestyle permanently. You've got, as far as lifestyles are concerned, living on the street, you got a squatter lifestyle, low, middle, high, luxury. And then you have a hospital life. One of the books, I think it's Unwired, adds a full immersion lifestyle. Whatever. He's made so much money. He comes from the Redmond Barons, comes from a family that didn't have much. It's overwhelming to have been as incredibly successful as he's been. He doesn't have the business acumen, he doesn't have the financial, know-how to properly deal with all of this money. And also, how he's gotten it is all incredibly illegal. He can't just spend all of this legally because it ends up connecting with his real sin, and there's no way his real sin could have possibly earned all this money. And, it's easier to track data in 2072 than it is in our current timeline. So you have Season 1 ending, Boris and Dream are standing outside the Yakuza casino in Auburn. As the new year rolls around, they reflect upon life and the Kraken job. And then that transitions to different tone and different approaches and different jobs in Season 2, if you will. So, moving on from data trails, we have to talk about Dream's 8 street cred, because of how highly successful the group has been in the shadows. Well, due to his signature and his compulsive need to leave evidence behind that he is the one who did these jobs, that gives anyone looking to do legwork tests or data search tests on him plus 8 dice. That's an extra 8 dice in their dice pools, for rolling data search or, trying to do, things to learn more about him. You can easily see the strands connecting through all the jobs that he's done, and then you could end up doing further research about him. You could begin to, try and track his movements, which could end you, learning about a professional wrestler named the Auburn Dream, which could end up leading you to the truth of Virgil Runnels, which is his real sin. Dream also has 3 public awareness at this point, which is, according to the book, when police and security agencies begin to build dossiers on your activities. It's also when, like, potential employers, potential Johnsons and Shadowrunners will take a look at, like, your public awareness and shy away from doing jobs with you because of that. It's important to note, if you're unfamiliar with Shadowrun lore, that the whole goal of Shadowrunning is to be in the shadows, to be as unnoticed as possible. Obviously, you want some semblance of rep so that you can get gainful employment, but you do not want to attract attention to yourself, generally. Because mega corporations, your typical targets, through their subsidiaries or whatever, of your Shadowruns, have far more resources and power and influence than you ever will. And by building public awareness and leaving all these clues behind, you make it easier for them to find you and do something to you, should they be sufficiently motivated to do so. Ultimately, what they care about the most is their bottom line, but sometimes they have to make an example out of a motherfucker. Like, if they're sufficiently aggrieved, or think that might hurt some other business of theirs, they will hunt and track you down, and try to do something about it. So this is a real problem that Dream's, like, personality has. His need for recognition, his need to, like, leave these clues, like the belt buckles and emblems, like, it's incongruous with life as a deniable asset. Like, there's too many loose ends that he's left behind. His reckless nature doesn't help the matters too. His vindictive qualities, and also like the recklessness too. Like, that's not a negative quality. Like, his inherent recklessness, it could be, but it's not. Like, the vindictive nature though certainly is. Anyway, the downtime starts with a Dream attempting to ameliorate all of that. It begins with getting access to an ID manufacturer and retiring the Roderick Tombs identity, which he's used for the entirety of the campaign, and he's had before the campaign started. So it's had some work, before then, too. Data trails end up getting left on your sins, whether it's real or fake, as you go about your life with them, as you make legal purchases with them, as you head in and out of stores, whatever the case. Like, there's a data trail surrounding what you do in life. And it's time to distance Dream from Roderick Tombs and pick up 2 fake identities, 2 new identities. One ends up being from the Pueblo Corporate Council, and another one ends up being from the Evo Corporation. Note that Seattle is controlled by the UCAS, and one of the reasons why I picked these fake sins from different locales is to create trouble and bureaucracy for investigative purposes, should, like anyone in, like, Seattle, like, come across his sin and then try to investigate it. Because there's, like, data trails and stuff that have been set up in different legalities. And just to create some logistic hurdles to make tracking him down, or learning more, harder to do. Each fake sin has licenses attached to them for his restricted gear. Not every single item that's restricted, but for the majority of it. In addition, Dream has set up a numbered credit account, a different place for him to store his Nuyen that isn't tied to any of his sins. That way, should one of his, like, credit accounts connected to one of the sins be shut down because one of the sins is shut down and his assets are frozen, he still has money located somewhere else. He can spread the money out over his various accounts so that, he has some emergency funds just in case. He's had a certified cred stick, like, in backup, but this, with the amount of money that he makes and due to the nature of certified cred sticks, this seems a better way to go. In addition, he's also set up an anonymization service for his Comcode's Access ID to make it harder for any entrepreneurs, if you will, or hackers or what have you, to track him down through Access ID. he's deactivated his old comlink, and he's purchased 2 new comlinks. His old comlink, and how he's regarded technology and social profiles and what have you over his life, has been with suspicion. He's run his comlink off of hidden. He hasn't bothered to set up a social profile, which, like, when you go into higher class society, higher, like, more secure society, ends up drawing a great deal of suspicion. Like, in upper class levels, you have to be set to active or passive, and, like, he didn't have a social profile set up. You know, like, there's no, like, real interaction or integration with him, and that can draw suspicion to him. So, he's thought of a way to defray that by purchasing 2 new comlinks. One is a decoy comlink, a dummy one, that is running a social profile on passive or active, depending on where he is located. And then he has a second comlink, which is always in hidden, but subscribed to the decoy, and ends up, like, being the master of his entire pan. You know, it's a more powerful comlink, thoroughly upgraded with gizmos, enough to cost 61,800 new yen. And, basically, it's, like, that will be, like, the true master of everything, and the decoy comlink is there to just, like, defray suspicion. You know, folks will look at him, you know, see the public profile, and probably not think twice. Because there's not a whole lot of folks running around who have a comlink subscribed to a comlink. There we go. That's that idea. And if you're interested in looking at these images again, like, click on this document in the video description and then go to click on these various hyperlink images. The final step of downtime phase 1 to defray suspicion, and, like burn some connective tissue that could lead back to him, is to cover up his steps, because there's several, like, lingering remnants from the prior sessions that could be, well, that could be damaging or dangerous in some fashion. And so he ends up acquiring the services of Bellerophon, and ends up asking for a favor in exchange for this stuff getting done. And indeed, it is a favor that Dream owes Bellerophon, which we get into shortly in Session 9. So that comes up real quick. But yeah, let's sweep some of that stuff under the rug. Some mistakes. Takes us to Downtime Phase 2, which is about augmentation. Got plenty of time between Sessions 8 and 9, and so Dream gets to work with augmenting himself. We have tailored pheromones, which are forbidden. We have platelet factories, not forbidden. Attention coprocessor, not forbidden. A pain editor, which is heavily forbidden and cultured. And so that definitely requires the assistance of his Black Clinic cybersurgeon at a premium for acquiring the item. And then there's Eternal Air Tank, which it ends up being betaware in quality. In the augmentation supplement, Austin and I both looked up that there's advanced rules for, like, if you're trying to acquire the services of, like, various medical facilities or practitioners, and it has, like, a suggested, like, availability for betaware clinics. And so we ended up working off of that, and Dream was able to obtain an internal air tank. It replaces part of his lung, and he can choose at any moment to stop breathing externally and only breathe from that. And it provides immunity to inhalation-based attacks. You know, he's a troll. Folks will try a whole lot of indirect ways to down him. One of the ways to do that is through inhalation attacks. And if he has enough forewarning that he's going to be attacked, he can breathe through that instead of breathing externally, and he'll be immune. Quick phase, though. And easy to accomplish. He had plenty of new yen, and there was definitely plenty of time, so no problems there. Which takes us to Downtime Phase 3, which is befriending an animal rights activist. The past 2 sessions featured paracritters. Dream knows nothing of parazoology or magical theory. He doesn't have contacts in the magical field, and he decided that it was time to change that. You know, it made sense that he didn't have those contacts. We really hadn't encountered any Awakened stuff. and he naturally shied away from doing jobs involving that. But since it's kept coming up, and like he's taking better account of himself and what he should do to survive better in his job, or lack thereof, you know, as a freelancer, effectively. He ends up befriending an animal rights activist, which turns out to be Joseph Redfang of Sun Temple Agriculture. You may recall him from last session. He was the troll that we met at the facility, who was looking to like record like information about the Kraken and then like release that to the general public. Dream ends up spending time with him during the downtime and befriending him. He ends up with a connection rating of 4 and a loyalty rating of 2. There was the opportunity to have a higher loyalty with him, depending on how much Dream wanted to invest in with him, but Dream wasn't looking to make a friend, and Joseph and Dream travel in different circles. Like, Joseph doesn't even live in Seattle. He lives outside Seattle, like in the Nan territory. So that precludes them hanging out. Dream's interests include sports, you know, and enjoying the comforts of technology while consuming sports. Dream also has some interest in, like shadow running and, like, news involving that, like, the shadow community, if you will, as much of a joke as that's ended up being. And Joseph doesn't really do stuff with that. I mean, there's a gardening connection. Like, in general, like, Dream's interests are pretty narrow, at least as far as, like, his knowledge skills are concerned. Like, most of it, of course, is poured into sports. He's got a great deal of knowledge about Seattle, but Joseph lives outside of Seattle. Yeah. So, definitely not friends. But, you know, they have a better than business relationship. Finally, Dream poured effort into finding a new place to live. As much as he enjoyed his home, it's tied to Virgil Runnels. Like, he got that using his real sen. It's in close proximity to where he works, and he assumes that people are trying to follow him. So he's going for a new place, better place, different place, which is built through an advanced lifestyle. I won't go too much into detail about the mechanics of that, though if you're looking to learn more, you can, again, come to the document and click on the various images that I made. But we ended up here with a new place in Renton. His previous home is in Auburn. It's in a decent neighborhood, but Auburn is really like an industrial area. Not the highest of classes attached to it. Renton is upper class. It's not the highest quality neighborhood in Seattle. An example of that would be Bellevue, which is human-controlled. It's the kind of place where if a metahuman is walking down the street, they could be stopped and asked for, like, their sin and, like, full details about their lives. Like, metahumans don't really drive there. They certainly don't do anything that's too important there. Heavily segregated community, the entirety of the Bellevue neighborhood. Renton ain't like that, but it's not too far off. Someone like Dream definitely attracts suspicion and notice, particularly since one of the negative qualities of his new lifestyle is that he lives near a Humanist Polyclub meeting house. If you're unfamiliar with the Humanist Polyclub, there are a political group which is focused around advancing the agenda of humanity. It's not anti-metahumanity, it's pro-humanity. It's anti-metahumanity. They don't do direct confrontations as much as facilitating, like, indirect confrontations. You know, they're the privileged group. They're the ones in power. They have the money, they have the prestige, they have the law knowledge. You know, they've been working their agenda for a long time. Yeah. Yeah, Dream's new home is near one of their meeting houses. Great, right? Yeah, inconspicuous. Nice area. Single family home. Beautiful, beautiful environment. He's got a new landlady, trigger happy, and then he's got worse neighbors, as noted there in the descriptive text. And it's pretty much as I described here, and you'll hear more about it in Session 9. And of course, like in future sessions as well. Until Dream inevitably leaves this place for one reason or another. And, like, it serves to improve the quality of his life, of course, you know, and invest some of the incredible sums of money that he's been making, but also to, like it's time for him to move. There's a lot of history attached with where he currently, like, his Auburn warehouse home. Because he's lived there for, like, a year and a half before our campaign even started. Like, he's lived there too long for the dangerous work that he does. So he's moved somewhere else, and obviously, like, considering considering how, like, living where he does, like in Renton, attracts even more suspicion, like, he'll eventually move out of there too, and go somewhere else, and it's a way to keep anyone trying to track him down on their toes. Alright, that's a general, like, overview of what Dream did during the downtime. This took longer than the first time did. Somehow. One final thing I want to get to before you folks watch Session 9. It's a bit of a spoiler, but I think that's okay. Session 9 ends on a rough note. And I want to make clear now, like, if you read this video description for Session 9, you'll get some clue as to why. That will also spoil you. Want to tell everyone now that everything is okay. We have continued to play after Session 9. Everything's alright. You feel like listening to all of that and how things become not okay, do that, reserve judgment, and make up your mind at the end after you consume it. But things do get rough during the session. Everyone who has a problem with the session expresses their feelings in a healthy way, and everyone who didn't have a problem expresses their feelings in a healthy way. This group is good. We did good. And, I don't have problems. I don't think anyone does. Alright? Alright. Sufficiently vague, mildly worrying, I'm sure. But, yeah, everything is fine. Okay? Okay. That takes care of this lengthy downtime. I'm going to go run my air conditioner now. Sitting here in my chair sweating. Enjoy yourselves. Take care, do good deeds, or not. Stay safe in the shadows, Chummers.